In this video, we're going to be talking specifically about halotherapy or salt therapy. So, halotherapy, it all started in Poland, of all places, back in the 1840s. There was a Polish scientist who was studying miners, and he was seeing coal miners dying of black lung, other ore miners having different respiratory issues. But the salt miners that he was seeing were living into old age with relatively few health problems. So that's when they figured out that something just a little bit different is happening in the salt mines. And in the 1850s, they established breathing clinics down in these salt mines. And one of the primary ones is the Woliszka salt mine in Poland. Is my pronunciation on that right? Yeah, Woliszka. And it's been used for mining salt for hundreds of years, and in the last 10 years they actually stopped mining salt there, and now it's mainly a tourist attraction. I highly recommend you go. I haven't been personally, but it is on my list of things to do. I've seen pictures, people give me postcards. It's really cool. But so these salt breathing clinics, they were down in the salt mines, taking kids with asthma, people with bronchitis, other respiratory issues down into the salt mines, spending time there breathing in the salt and seeing improvement with their issues. So over the last 200 years, it's changed a little bit. In the 1950s and 60s, started moving above ground. The Soviets were putting salt breathing clinics in their respiratory hospitals. And then after the Soviet Union fell in the 80s and 90s, it started to spread all over the world. So right now it's gaining popularity in Australia. It can actually potentially, partially at least, be covered by insurance in the European Union, the UK, as well as Canada. People in Eastern Europe, where it all grew up, are much more familiar with it than we are in the States. I have people from Poland, Romania, Hungary, Austria, all over in that kind of region of the world come in that already know about it. I don't have to tell them a single word. They're here for the salt because that's what you do. And I even have people in from Australia every once in a while. So we have you go into our salt room for 45-minute sessions. And our goal in the salt room is to recreate the environment inside of the salt mines. So we do have 11 tons of pink Himalayan salt in the room. And that does a little bit to help keep the environment in the room stable, but what's actually doing the bulk of the work is salt in the air. We do have a machine called a halo generator that grinds up pharmaceutical grade salt into a very fine powder and then projects it out into the room. So for this full 45-minute session, you are physically breathing in these microscopic little salt particles. And we do turn down the lights quite a bit during the sessions, but if you have a book light, you can sometimes see some salt floating through the beam of light. So you're breathing in the salt. It's coating this giant mucous membrane that is your respiratory tract. You're getting it on your skin. And the mechanism behind it all is that salt pulls moisture to it. That's just one of the properties of salt. So in your respiratory tract and on the skin, that has an anti-inflammatory effect. The salt is pulling fluid to it out of the cells, reducing the size of the cells, decreasing inflammation. So that aspect is touching on many different inflammatory issues, things like asthma, psoriasis, eczema, as well as many itises, inflammatory issues like bronchitis, sinusitis, rhinitis, dermatitis, pharyngitis, laryngitis, all sorts of things of that nature, but it really is what the salt can physically get to and touch. So not necessarily joints with arthritis, or musculature, GI tract. It is mainly respiratory and skin issues. The second part is that the salt helps to promote mucosal movement in the respiratory tract. It's that fluid transfer with the salt, pulling water to it out of the cells and then into the respiratory tract. This extra fluid then helps to thin out and break up mucus so that your body can more easily and naturally expel it, breaking up congestion, opening up, cleaning out the airways so that you can breathe. And that is the biggest part for many of the different respiratory issues, ranging from the extreme end of things with conditions like cystic fibrosis, COPD, emphysema. Down the line, we're looking at bronchitis, or on the other end of things, although very annoying, typically not as life-threatening, are seasonal allergies. And we do have a lot of people coming in with seasonal allergies year-round here in Central Texas. The third part, the salt is antimicrobial and antibacterial. So if you have some type of infection, bronchitis, sinus infection, even an ear infection, the salt can help to fight that off as well. Or incisions after surgery, cuts, scrapes, things like that, helps to keep everything sterile so that you can heal. Next time, we're going to be talking about pink Himalayan salt.